Hello. Welcome to If It Was a Book. This is a literary podcast where we take a story either from our guest, from our host, from a listener, or from the internet, and we rewrite it as if it was a story from a reader and another reader today. Sometimes we have author guests, sometimes we have influencer guests, sometimes we have people who work in the publishing industry, and today we have Hannah. Hello.
Hey.
My qualifications as a huge reader are that I am a librarian. I read 130 books in 130 days. Actually, I read 138 in 130 days, but that is what I'm best known for. And this year, I have not read nearly as much, but that's okay. I still love reading. And Hannah, how would you like to give your qualifications?
I mean, depending on how you look at it, I'm severely overqualified or severely underqualified, but I've been a bookfluencer, as I like to call it, for the last 5 years. I'm basically on any platform that exists because I'm also a social media manager for brands in my real day job. So I'm just basically wherever I can be, just talking about books on the internet, reviewing, working with publishers. I've also have some background of working in the publishing industry as well. As far as your writing skills go, I know you actually write. My writing skills are non-existent unless you count one middle school award I won that was statewide once, and I don't think I ever wrote anything ever again, but this will be interesting.
My writing is non-existent at the moment. I used to write quite a lot as a child. And then this is just a fun fact about me for when I was very into it and I was like, I'm going to be a writer. I showed a story that I'd written, which was so incredibly definitely based off of another book that I had read. And I had written that kind of into it because I was in the 5th or 6th grade. And the main character was cooking dinner or something for her family, and that was the tragic backstory was that she has to always cook dinner, and that's so sad for her because that's what you think is tragic when you're in 5th grade. And my mom read it because I was excited to show her, and she was deeply offended. She was like, is this how you feel, that we make you do all of the house chores and everything? And I was like, no, this was a haha funny time. And then I was like, I can never show this to anybody ever again. I can't show my work to others because they will read into it and be like, actually, is this play about us? And I'm like, no, it's not. So
I mean, you're onto something. I feel like it is kind of tragic having to make dinner every single day. It does get old. So, I mean, I would be interested. I would relate. There's an audience for everything.
I'm almost sure that I just stole that directly from Twilight when she was living with her dad, and he would always go out to dinner, and she's like, okay, now instead of going out to dinner, we're gonna cook at home.
The original fanfic era for you.
No, literally. Except that my character was also magical, and she had a magical sidekick that was a cat that could grow into a really big cat. Anyways, I was in 5th grade or 6th. I might have been 6th because I got back into reading when I read the Percy Jackson books in the 6th grade. So it was probably 6th grade.
I love it.
But that's my writing background. And then I do write fan fiction, but then no one gets to know that that's me, and so no one writes themselves into what's going on. Yeah, but you have a story that you'd like us to rewrite?
Yeah, so I have been kind of brushing up listening to your past episodes, and I wanted to go in a different angle because I pulled a story from my own life. Unfortunately, it would be way too sad and tragic if we went from my early days of childhood because I grew up very religiously oppressed, or if we went from my adult ages, it would be extremely boring because I'm in a relationship of almost 10 years now, and great for us, but not really great for storytelling. It's pretty boring. It's pretty happy and things are pretty good. So I was like, what kind of story am I gonna bring today? And I'm chronically online, as most of us are. So I decided to turn to some pop culture. And I am very invested at times in Bachelor Nation. So The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with these two people, but if you're not, I'll kind of give you a little bit of backstory so that, we can craft something out of this.
Yeah, let the listeners know.
All right. So there are two people. We'll start with Matt James. Matt James was the Bachelor at one point, and it was a big plot twist of the time because he got selected to be the Bachelor even though he had never been on the show. Usually they pick from previous cast members, so everyone was kind of like, this is strange, why are we choosing him? But we'll roll with it. And at the end of the show, you're supposed to, of course, propose to the one lucky woman you chose after, 2-3 weeks is the actual timeline. And so he picks a person, her name is Rachel, and he breaks the show, breaks the internet because he doesn't propose, but he says, I still want to be with you. I want to be in a relationship. I just don't think like proposing is realistic. So everybody really enjoyed that because that's a very normal approach. It feels like real life. We're like, okay, yes, you've been together for 3 weeks. That's very valid that you don't want to be engaged.
Yeah.
So very normal. They had some drama in their relationship, but fast forward 4 years, they're still together. Like they're still going at it. And now they've kind of pivoted as a lot of these like bachelor influencers do, where they've found a different niche to go into and kind of use their celebrity to their own advantage. So I got super invested because before books, I had a food account. I had a foodie account. So I would go to tastings. I would go to like new restaurant openings and I would review these restaurants online and post really cool videos. So that's what they were doing now. And they would go to New York and they would go to Japan and they're like all over the world eating. And I'm like, what a dream, right? So I'm like bookmarking these videos. I'm sending them to my husband. We're just watching them all the time because we travel too. Fast forward to about a week ago, out of the blue, he broke up with her and he did it in the weirdest way possible. I think it's like the weirdest celebrity announcement of a breakup I've ever seen. It's on his Instagram, so definitely go check it out, all of you listeners. But there was no talks. Like the last post we had seen, they're in Japan eating, enjoying themselves. And then he posts a picture of them from their bachelor days, which is like 4 years ago, which they don't like to talk about. And he's like, it was in prayer format, which he's a religious man, but it was just like, grant us strength in these times of no longer being together.
Oh.
It was odd. It just like came out of nowhere, out of left field. She hadn't posted anything. One of her last posts was like, happy birthday, my love. Can't wait to do this basically forever. And all of his internet trail is essentially being like, oh, I can't wait to propose to this woman. She is the best thing in my life. Every time he's in a public facing interview, he's saying all of these things. So recently she goes on a podcast to kind of talk about the breakup and it just like made it so much worse. And this is where I got extra invested because this poor girl is talking about how they broke up because he had asked her to pick a restaurant while on their trip so that they could food blog about it. He was busy doing something else. She picks a restaurant and they get there and it's just like, it's not worthy of being food blogged. It's not aesthetic enough. Like it's not hitting right. And she knew he would be upset. So she starts crying. She's probably like, certain cycles, like things just hit us very hard. I was crying yesterday about like a commercial.
Girl, me too.
And so this poor girl is just like stressed. She's like, this is his job. Like, I don't feel good about this. I'm disappointing him. And they just sit there in silence for the rest of the dinner, get back to the hotel. And he's like, if you're this emotional about a restaurant, I can't be with you because like, how are you going to be emotions wise? Like when we have kids or we go through this or that. So I just think we need to like call it here. Like, have you ever met a woman? Essentially, we as in the internet are all rallying behind Rachel because she is this like Southern belle. She is beautiful inside and out. And she is so like tenderhearted. Like she's like talking about him on this podcast, still won't say a bad word to this day. Even though when you watch all their videos, he's always kind of teasing her and jabbing at her. And it's just like very uncomfortable. And I kind of really latched onto this idea of what if we take a Rachel-like character and kind of give her this love story she deserves, but also kind of like get a little bit of a vindictive moment where like maybe the Matt character has to like see her be happy, or maybe her food career takes off in his tanks. Like, what can we do here to serve up some justice, make it romantic? And it could be a play on them. I don't think it needs to be them exactly because they are real people, but I really like their story. I have a lot of attachment to it from watching them on TV and also being a foodie. So I love this like foodie based setting and being like, all right, the book starts out, she's brokenhearted. How does she recover? How do we, turn this into something?
You'll have to tell me if this would work because you have your foodie background. But I think that in the revenge sphere of it all, I think that she should be much more successful than him at her foodie thing. But I think that in doing so, she should be doing stuff that he can't do. So for example, going to those restaurants that aren't super aesthetic, but still being able to make really good content about it because she's better at it than him. Like he needs the restaurant to already be content worthy. And she can take any good food and make it into content.
Honestly, I feel like that's already like what's happening between them. I feel like that's perfect because any video he posts that she's in it outperforms all of his other videos because people just love her because she's a good person and she's beautiful. So I think that, like, you are onto something. That's perfect.
Okay. But I don't know if that's like even possible. Like since you did foodie stuff, can non-aesthetic things become aesthetic if you're good enough?
I think that it's like any industry where it depends on the person's personality. So because it's food, like the one thing you're going to need to do is always film in daylight hours because or have like crazy lighting, but that's almost impossible, in my opinion, to make food look good at dinner time with tons of light. Like it's just a lot, especially like you're eating in a restaurant with a bunch of other people around. You're not bringing a bunch of equipment like that. So I think as long as they're open during like a pretty standard regular hour and that you're a big personality who can like turn on that charm. I've seen a lot of like TikTok foodies really blow up certain restaurants that are like local and kind of ugly, but they're just so delicious and they have so much heart because they talk about like the history of the restaurant and like they've been doing this for 20 years because they love this and it's their grandma's recipe and like, and then you're just like, love them. I want to eat that pizza. I want to go get those dumplings. Like you fall in love with the story of the restaurant. So I feel like because she's always approached things with more like of a nurturing romantic side of things, he could kind of talk about that and like get to know the owners or the chefs and kind of bring in that personal element a little bit more.
Ooh, okay. So yes. And I think that we can build off of that in that her like first thing that's going to go viral and that like kind of brings her back up is going to be at a like small family restaurant that's been doing it for years and years. And you can decide what the food is because I don't know. But it's going to have been like recently taken over by the oldest or youngest or whatever son of the family. And so they're in doing research about it so that she can get the like good content of like, here's the family history and here's like why we love this place. She has to spend a lot of time with him and he's maybe like taking her to meet his grandma who like made the first recipe and all of that. And they're going to fall in love, obviously. So I think that would be like a good way to get her revenge, but also get her the love story she deserves.
And also, who wouldn't want a partner that cooks for you and cooks like really good food? Like that is the ultimate dream. So I really like this direction. I'm wondering, like, from getting to point A of her being like heartbroken in the beginning, how do we get her to point B of being like, no, I'm gonna make my own foodie account instead of doing this as like the second in command? Like, how does she decide to be like, I'm taking, control of the ship here. I'm going to make my own account and like blow yours out of the water. Like, how much time has passed? Like, how are we getting to that part?
So this, if you want to, we've already done this in one episode, but I just love when it's chaos. So it could be where she and her best friend go out. They get just smashed. And maybe even she's taking videos during that time. She's like at the bar taking these aesthetic shots. She knows how to take aesthetic shots. She's been doing this for years with him. And I think that she should just post it to her personal account being like, oh my God, this place is so fun. I'm having such a great time with my girls. And then that's going to blow up a little bit because of the breakup and people are like interested in what she's doing. But that's going to show that like she can do the videos that she needs to be able to do. She can make the content. And that people are paying attention to her content. And so she's like, okay, based off of these million or whatever views she got, I don't know how big foodie videos can get, but I assume quite large because I will watch a foodie video. I think it's a little bit less niche than books because you don't have to have read the book to enjoy food, You're like, food is great.
To eat to survive. So there's that.
It is a wider audience. So I think that she can have this video go viral of the bar that she's at with her friends. I know that that's not the lighting that's ideal, but it's what we're working with. Maybe she's day drinking at brunch. I don't know. But she's going to take these videos and this content of this place that she's at, and it's going to do really well. A little bit because of the recent breakup and people like are just curious and want to know, but a little bit because she's like really good at what she does. And so because of that, she now has this like built-in audience that she can go forward with. And even if things like trickle down as people are less interested in the breakup, they'll get more interested in the cool food and see her personality shine in a way that it wasn't able to when he was in charge. Because I feel like he's stifling and we don't like him.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like at the same point of all of this happening, in her email inbox, it's just like building up of all of these like restaurants and places pitching her to come to their restaurants. Because I can only imagine like the way that she's always kind of in control and behind the scenes, that she was the one in charge of like, the partnerships, the booking. So she's still getting these emails And she sees that they're like talking about like, we would love to still have you by yourself come in. Like, we still, want you to come in. And she sees these emails piling up. This video pops off. She sees her followers growing. Like, she sees all the support in her comments. And now that's when she's like, can I do this? Like, me? Like, they care about me? Like, this, what is life? And she kind of like starts to see, a light at the end of the tunnel here out of the misery of her breakup.
I love that. I also think that it would be fun if we don't have to make it be a romance, but if we were going to do it as a romance where...
Well, I'm down for romance.
Okay,
so she's 80% romance. Let's stick in our wheelhouse here.
So she is going to be falling for this guy who's a restaurant owner or a chef at the restaurant. Either way, he is like integral to this restaurant. I think that he should not be the one to email and suggest that she come to his restaurant. I think that it's got to be like his niece or like maybe a grandma or an aunt like saw one of the videos that got reposted to Facebook or whatever, because you know how grandmas are on Facebook. And so she sees this and she's like, we need this for our restaurant that maybe is not doing quite as well, but that, has the heart, has the food, has the story. So she sends it. And then main girl, we haven't named her. Main girl has...
That's her like Emily. It sounds like kind of like that same space, but it's someone new.
Yeah. Okay. So Emily gets the email and she goes to the restaurant because she loves the story that's in the email talking about the like family and why it's been around for however many years and all of that. And she's like, this place has a lot of heart. I want to go there. So she goes there and she's like, hey, I got your email. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, but she's already invested. Like she read the story. She loves it. She's like looked at pictures online and everything, and she's like, this is a good place and I want to support it. He is not into it, but he's like begrudgingly being convinced by his family, and so he like has to spend this time with her, teaching her about what they're doing and why it's important and how it relates to his family, and maybe she's like meeting other members of the family. I think that we need a lot of situations where they're put together, but like he's kind of annoyed with it, but like he's doing it for his family. And slowly a relationship builds.
Yeah, like he doesn't care about social media.
Right.
He cares about food and family. And like he's just one of those people who probably has a flip phone. And he doesn't care. He doesn't like, he knows that deep down there probably is some sort of impact and that it could help, which is why he's like begrudgingly going along with it.
Right.
He also doesn't want to disappoint his family. But he's not happy about it. And I feel like this is even more perfect because you don't even know this part. But she got signed up for The Bachelor by her friends and family. She didn't sign herself up for the show. She also had this huge support pushing her to find love. And now it's kind of perfect that he has this support behind the scenes who's like pushing him into the spotlight also. So it's kind of coming full circle. But I imagine that like maybe it's like his niece or someone who's chronically online who saw her, and that they like talk to the family and together they're all like, he, this is fun. Let's apply. In the best situation, we get chosen and, it just highlights the restaurant. But in the best, they're both single and beautiful people. Something more could happen if we continue to meddle as the story goes along. Like, I imagine the families there kind of getting a little messy.
I absolutely love that. And I think that we need some pre-background scenes wherein, like, she's posting about these certain things that are like little bits of herself, which is of course her personality shining through, and that's why people like her content. Little bits of herself and her hobbies and her interests that they are seeing as mirrors to his hobbies and interests, and that's why they're like, also they would be good together. So like I'm trying to think of some things that would be good for that.
Maybe like it's something to do with like you choose audios to play in the background of your videos and it's like his favorite band or little things.
Like obscure bands that he really likes.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that a lot.
Because I feel like music is like a powerful connector, especially if it's something kind of niche. Actually, not even especially if it's niche. I'm like, I bond so hard with anyone who loves Taylor Swift. And she is niche. Oh, I'm like, a Swiftie. Let's be best friends.
Yeah. So, no, I completely agree. I think that it is useful to the story if it's a more obscure band or whatever, just because then it's like, oh my God, she likes whatever band, he likes whatever band, and no one knows his like weird uncle music because he's her uncle.
Well, and so it's leaning towards a bit of a grumpy sunshine,
I
right? But she's kind
agree.
of a sunshine on the repair. He's like bringing this, like eventually he's going to bring the sunshine back out.
Mm-hmm.
And but he's this grump. And so I feel like he would have this like preconceived notion of her, like, oh, she's a social media girl. Because I know what that feels like. A blonde social media girl over here. And where they're like, oh, she doesn't have any substance. She isn't well educated. She's just here to look pretty and to make pretty videos. And that's it. And so he would have this like view of her. And by like seeing these little things like this niche band and things like that, he's like, oh, there's more to the story here.
Right.
Like, how would she know this? How would she learn about this thing, that thing?
I like that a lot. I also think it would be kind of interesting because she is a foodie. Maybe she didn't like go to culinary school, but maybe she went to like some culinary classes. Like she has culinary background, and I think that it would be interesting if she like knew some of the like niche culinary terms. So like maybe she's talking about like specific knife skills, and she notices that he cuts his carrots in this specific way. Like he juliennes his carrots instead of another dicing them. I don't know. I used to know them. I don't. I did go to culinary.
I have this, like, I see where you're going, and I have this idea for it.
Yes.
So imagine that. So as we've discussed, the family signed him up for this. So obviously their restaurant needs a little bit more business than they're getting. So
Right.
there's a little bit of that component, or maybe they're struggling a bit.
Yeah, I
And
feel
so
like
then
we
he-
need a line of him being like, the food speaks for itself. Like, we don't
Well,
need social media, blah, 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 blah.
So part of like it now, they've discovered they like the same music. She's in his space with the family. They're trying to convince them both to like do these features. They both agreed, but it's not quite taking off yet, right? We're kind of in this middle where it's getting a little bit murky. They're just around each other, but they're not getting along yet. I imagine, like you were saying, so he has all these skills. He's a really like great chef. But what if in his spare time he teaches cooking classes because they need more money? And so he's been teaching these classes like on the sly. He doesn't even tell people about it because he's kind of like embarrassed because he's prideful. He doesn't want to admit they need money.
Mhm.
And so he's teaching these classes, like, I don't know, some local little small spot
Mhm.
for extra side cash. And she decides to join a class because she just loves food. And she's like, I just want to approach food in a new way. Instead of just highlighting restaurants, it would be really great if I could like go deeper and
Mhm.
understand what these skills mean, but also like cook for myself because I'm healing myself.
Right.
Like, she takes this cooking class, she gets there and she doesn't know it's him, and then it's him.
Oh, it's even better that she didn't know it was him.
No,
I
she
thought
didn't-
that she was like
signed up
doing
for
it.
a local class like on a whim, and it was like,
Oh.
all right, this is 2 days a week. We're gonna like from whatever hours, probably something in the morning because chefs need to be at work at the night. But
No, I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
so we
I
need them to
also-
be together more.
Mhm. I also think it would be interesting if we did, for specifically, I'm thinking of how to make her videos be more popular than his, part of her, like,
Is her
revenge
ex making videos at the same time? Like, is
I
he
think
still-
so, but I think that they're not doing very well because I think that
she's
she was
losing
doing
followers left and right.
right. She was doing all the B-roll, so now his like B-roll is terrible, and then he just doesn't have the heart behind it. Not that he's not successful, and not that he doesn't like food. He's just not. He's not the personality. But anyways, I think that what should become her like niche is that she will have the different people at the different restaurants, and this is absolutely on cooking shows. The different people from the different restaurants like teach her their signature dish, and so the audience can see everything that goes into it, and they can see how it's done, and they can try to make it at home, but it won't be as good as going in person. And so I think that that would help get her personality out there, is like the conversations with the restaurant owners, with the chefs, like talking about, oh, well, we fold it this way because my great grandmother folded it this way, and she thinks that it holds the steam better than if you fold it the traditional way that's this other way. Or like, I don't know. I'm only thinking about dumplings right now. I'm starving.
I know that I was actually thinking about dumplings earlier after this, and I was like, this sounds so good. No, I love this because I feel like he knows how to turn up. He has the right, like her ex, we should name him also. You name him because I named her.
I feel like Jack.
Jack. A J name, of course.
Of course. I almost said Josh because that's the perfect ex-boyfriend name, but
That would be good too. All right, so we've got Jack, and he's still making his videos, and they're tanking compared to like his old numbers, right?
Right.
But the thing is he still has all these skills of like he has the right equipment and he knows how to film because like he's been doing it too for all of these years. So I'm not by any means saying he's doing a bad job, but like people are realizing his videos missed something because they didn't realize how much of his videos depended on her. So his audience is going downhill, but these restaurants are still booking him because like they're still good videos and he still has a good platform.
Right. He still has the big following.
And I feel like he's probably struggling with this because he thought like the way that he publicly broke up with her and that he was this like bachelor guy, like he's used to being like #1 top dog. And so now he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you like her more than me? Like it's kind of eating him up a little bit. But he's just pushing on, pretending like it's all going to be fine. He's probably starting to like flirt with other girls and be seen around with them and, you know, bringing them. What if he's bringing like new girls to like their favorite restaurants? Like he's doing like a little bit of evil things, you know? 'Cause I feel like he would.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's got to be some drama happening there. But I want there to be like a big clash in the middle where like they have to be at the same food event. And so they both get invited separately.
Right.
And they're both working. But now it's tense. So maybe this is like a year in the future because we want her to like not be into him anymore. You know, we need some healing time and her to be established in her own lane, but like it's still fresh enough to be tense.
I'm trying to decide if during this meeting, this re-meeting a year later, it would be better for her to be with the new guy at the event, or if it would be better for her to be alone and be standing on her own merit and being like, and people coming up to her, like not coming up to him, but coming up to her and being like, oh my God, I loved this video that you did. I went and tried that restaurant because you recommended it and it was so good. Or if it's better to do that, but also have the other new guy be like, see what you're missing out on kind of thing.
Maybe it's like, all right, I've got it. So the event is she's helped Chef. You know, she's helped him already because it's a year down the road. It's helped his restaurant a lot. She's taken these, like, she's in the cooking classes still, maybe. You know, we're finishing up. We're like kind of at the tail end of like things are really turning for their restaurant and for him. Things are going well. They're not together yet, but like things are repairing. It's less tense now. He believes in her, but like he hasn't started really super flirting with her yet. He's still like apprehensive of it all, but he believes in like what she can do. She's proven like her wisdom, right? So he's opening a new restaurant and he's like, I need all of these people here. Family, you take care of this. And remember, they're messy. Family is like, of course, we always handle all your bookings. We've got this. And they were like, we know how to do viral now. We're going to invite both of them, plus like all of these other foodies naturally. But like, we need them both to be here because they haven't been in the same room since. And we need to also push him into like seeing, you know, them together. So he'll make a move on her. Like we need him jealous. We need messy.
I like that.
So maybe even better, the meddling little niece invites everyone and then secretly invites the ex, Jack. So not everyone knows Jack is coming, but because maybe the older family would be like, don't do that. We love her now. She helped us. You know, like we're not going to do that. But the niece is like, no, I need this TikTok to like be our biggest TikTok ever. I like it.
I love that. I also think that it's funny since the little niece is chronically online. I think that it would be really funny if we have little at the beginning of each chapter. She's maybe doing like vlogs or something. She's doing TikTok. She's doing vlogs following this drama of, my God, Emily is gonna come to our restaurant and she's gonna help make it better and everything. And it doesn't have like a lot of views. Like this is just like a little thing for her and her friends. And then the next chapter, it's like, oh my God, Emily and we have to name Chef Sam. Emily and Sam are having some tension. And then in the next chapter, there's just like, it's just like little voice clips of her like stirring the pot and trying to like get them closer together. And so then I think that as time goes on, so now we're a year in the future and the restaurant did so well because of her help, and now they're able to open a second location and they're inviting all these foodies, and she's like telling her little audience, and it's getting bigger. She's telling her little audience that like, oh my God, I invited both of them. Or maybe even just for tension for us, some sort of like, you'll never guess who I invited. We as the audience seeing the little audio clips are like, oh, either she invited, we assume that she invited Emily. And then her messy drama is that she actually invited Jack. And then, like, we'll see, like, a little, well, we won't see it because it's a book, but an audio clip of her saying, like, oh my God, they're both in the same room, or like Jack's walking up to Emily or whatever. At the beginning of each chapter, we get a little snippet of the chaos that she's sowing to her friends on TikTok, but also now she has, like, not a lot, maybe like 5 or 10,000 TikTok followers that are just invested in the drama.
I imagine too, like, she has access to the restaurant account, right? Like, she's been the one primarily, like, cross-posting, reaching out, doing all of these things because she understands social media. What if she was like, to find out who we invited, you have to watch the live stream? Like, we're doing my social media brain right now. But she's trying to get all the people over there to watch. Yeah. And so she's going to go live at the event. Then the audience in real time gets to watch them, like, meeting each other because they've watched them on TV and they're like, this is crazy. How is this meeting going to go of her and the ex? Like, what is he going to do to piss her off? Maybe, like, then Chef Sam can step in.
I do want Chef Sam to step in, especially now that we're live streaming. I think that the audience needs to see that happening. Yes. So, okay, I think that he needs to make some sort of comment. Jack needs to make some sort of comment about, like, oh, I see that your little videos are doing well, or whatever. Like, your little hobby.
Skin is boiling. My palms are sweating. I'm like, your little... Okay, perfect. Right on. I'm just irate. I can't.
Yeah, so he has to say something very dickish about, like, oh, your little hobby, or like...
so cute.
Like, writing on my coattails kind of thing of, like, oh, I see you were able to make your little videos, like, and you're still making your little videos, or something that's, like, very annoying of him to say, where he's not respecting what she's doing. And I think that she should stand up for herself first. I think that she needs to fight back on that. I don't know what she should say back. I feel like some sort of jab about, like, surpassing his followers, or, like, yeah, I think that they got a little bored with what they were seeing before, so now they're coming to my account. I don't know a good comeback, but something about, like, they left him because he sucks.
Above it, while being a little jabby still, like, super direct, where she would be like, it's interesting to see, like, how well things can go when you approach it with, like, authenticity and heart. Where he's just like, what are you saying about me? But she didn't actually say it. You know?
Right. No, I like that better. I like that better than a direct jab. Something a little sly.
She's a little bit of, like, a high roader, right? Like, because even before, like, when they broke up, like, she still wouldn't say anything bad. She still publicly has never said anything bad, even though now she recognizes, like, how awful he was, you know? But she's a nice person. So she's
like
taking
that
a little.
I like that she is taking the high road. I think that Chef Sam should not. I think that Chef Sam should come up and, like, maybe put his arm around her shoulders, just, like, something that's, like, kind of possessive, but at this point they are not together. Because I think...
So, what do you think about something along the lines of... What's our ex's name again? I forgot.
Jack.
Oh my God. Jack. He is kind of a schmoozer, right? Like, I imagine he has this schmoozer energy, especially, like, at the restaurants. So he sees he's like, whatever.
Chef Sam, hello.
Yeah, like, bye, Emily. Like, you're annoying. I have work to do. Some of us be working. And so he, like, dismisses her and just, like, leaves super rudely in the middle of their conversation when she was, like, trying to be somewhat polite. And he sees the chef and he's like, I need to go talk to the chef. And so he, like, goes to talk to him and he's schmoozing him up. And he's just, like, you know, trying to get in his good graces and act, like, super nice. And I don't know. He is doing his job, but, like, it's a little icky. Like, it doesn't come across, once again, very authentic. So I feel like now is when, like, Chef, because maybe he doesn't realize their connection. Like, this is where he can kind of, like, be like, have you met Emily? Or, like, how does he do?
I think that he should kind of I think he should notice Emily, and he should cut Jack off for whatever he's saying. And be like, oh my gosh, excuse me, I will be right back. And then he, like, goes and it's like, oh my God, Emily, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for coming. Like, be a little loud about it. Be a little annoying about it.
Because, like, he left her standing there dejected, right? Because he, like, cut her off to walk away. So she's probably like, yeah, I didn't know he's going to be here. They're live streaming me. Like,
she doesn't know about the live stream.
Well, she just sees cameras. Like, it's stressful, right? Like, people are on their phones. it's too much. She's overwhelmed. She's like, I need to work. Like, I'm trying to be professional. Someone invited my ex. He's being a dick. Like, what do? I haven't seen him in a year. Like, now I'm just mad. So she's probably standing there. And that's when, like, Chef Sam sees her and he's like, something's wrong. And he isn't, like, it's got to be the without even realizing bit. He's like, excuse me, sorry. So I'll talk to you in a minute. So nice to meet you. And he just, like, sidesteps him to go to.
No, I think that's great. And I think that Jack should not get the hint. I think that Sam should go over, be talking with Emily, and then Jack comes back up and he's like, hey, like, not we got disconnected, but like something in the same vein of like, I don't know what a good in-person we got disconnected would be.
I don't know. I feel like he's just very like douchey, so he'd just be like, as I was saying, you know.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He just like acts like nothing.
Where we left off. Yeah. And then Chef Sam should be like, oh, have you met Emily? She like brought our restaurant back. Like, I'm just sort of singing her praises of like, her videos are so wonderful. We really appreciate her personality. We think that she's the perfect fit for doing these like restaurant videos. We've never seen anything like it. And the audience has really responded well. And it got our restaurant off the ground so much that we are now able to open a second location. And we owe it all to her and all of that. And Jack's just like,
And to make matters worse, at the end of this, Chef Sam tacks on like something about her culinary prowess skills that she's learned from class. He's like, and I've never seen anyone like Juliana Vegetable the way that she has. You know, like where he was like, she never cooked for me. How do you know this about her? Like now he knows there's like something else there that's not just work. You know, like they spent personal time together. And that's when he's like really losing it.
I like that.
I'm having so much fun. I'm like, I want to like read this now. I want to watch this. I was like, you want to make a TV show?
Yeah, unfortunately, it does die at the end of the episode.
Sadness. Okay, well, how are we gonna like make them?
Unless someone wants to write fan fiction about this podcast, it does die at the end.
I give full permission.
I do too. If you would like to write fan fiction about the podcast, you have our full permission.
How do we make them essentially now? Like Chef Sam realizes he has some like feelings for her. He couldn't like resist but step in. He was like, how did she even date this douchey guy? Like, she's so wonderful. Like, what? Like, you know, and he wants to kind of now, he had this like switch where he's like, I want to prove to her that like she deserves more and I want to be the more.
Yeah.
How do we get them like together?
Well, I think that we are writing a very long, slow burn. So the audience is frustrated with us. Sorry about it.
Which even isn't my favorite to like read, but this is so fun to plot.
Right. So I think that we've had little sprinklings of like cutie little things that they're doing throughout our book. So when they're cooking together, maybe he even does, maybe she's bad at it at first. Like her knife skills suck. And so they are doing after cooking class, he's showing her, because he's like, you're going to cut off your fingers. So he does one-on-one cooking with her, that like maybe at his apartment, maybe at the restaurant, where he's like, look, you're hopeless at this. And she gets better and better, of course, each class. And so eventually she no longer needs the after hours assistance. And so maybe he's disappointed in that. Like we have little sprinklings of like, oh, what could have been, and then it didn't.
I also imagine maybe like because of like the family meddling and like them spending time together at the restaurant for like the earlier footage, he's learned about like what kinds of foods she likes. So in class, he starts adding in her favorite foods for them to learn how to cook. Like maybe he doesn't even realize he's doing it, but he kind of does, but he would never admit it. You know, he's like, she loves, you know, goat cheese. So this recipe highlights goat cheese. You know, he's just sprinkling
Low-key, goat cheese slaps.
I love goat cheese. That was a personal reference for sure. It's like everything with goat cheese is good.
Yeah. No, I agree. I love that. I love like little acts of kindness like that are little acts of service that he maybe doesn't even consciously realize he's doing. Like, I love that. Yes. And maybe like for their like final cooking class, he makes sure that it's something that like highlights the skills that she has really perfected over this time. So it's like the one maybe she says like, oh, this is my favorite cut to make or whatever, or like I really love these flavors and all of these things that come together. So he like makes sure that the last one is something that really highlights that. It's something that she's gonna love and feel like so proud of at the end of their classes.
I've got it. This might be too cheesy, but I love like cheesiness, especially in a romance book. What if, so like her job, right, is like getting to the heart in the story behind every restaurant. So she's been doing this, and she talks about like where these recipes came from in their families, in their history, in like, you know, like all of these, there's more to it than just like, this is what we're making today. Everything has a story now. And so she starts to talk about herself a little bit naturally as she's getting more confident on the platform and like talking about like, oh, in my family, like in my culture, we make these things and we love these things. And she starts to talk about it in her videos as well and being like, oh, I love that you do that because we do this. And he starts watching the videos. And so it's not even things she mentioned to him. In the last class, he does something that like highlights like her grandma's recipe or something that like she's never learned how to cook before. Can you imagine?
I love this so much.
I'm feeling.
I'm like kind of blushing.
I'm literally sweating.
So I think that you're sweating. I think that, well,
this.
you're also in direct sunlight right now.
That's true. It's true.
I think that, so I'm thinking about why it's taking them so long to get together. So I think that he should be a little bit concerned about, because she was dating someone she worked with before and it crashed and burned so hard, he doesn't want to start anything while they're working together. So they're working together for his restaurant and doing the stuff for that. And then they're working together doing the cooking classes. And so I think that there's a little bit of overlap for that, but then the cooking classes last longer after she's done all of her promo for the restaurant. And so he doesn't want to start anything until they are on a level playing field, not working together anymore. And so that maybe the cooking classes last the full year. So like maybe twice a month for a year, you do this cooking class and then it's over. And then he does his big new restaurant grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
They're working together for the last time. And now he's like, okay, now that we're finally not working, it's like after the event. So we've had the Jack confrontation after the event. He's like, I loved working with you, but I'm so glad we're not working together. Like maybe it's something that even like kind of offends her at first, where he's like, I'm so glad we're no longer working together. And she's like, and he's like, no, because now I can finally ask you out or whatever. I can finally do what I've wanted to do for the past year and ask you to dinner or ask you to my apartment for me to cook for you or whatever.
It's like this big realization for him to realize like all of these things he's been doing and like it all leads to her, right? But I think he needs a slight bit more of like a backstory. So I think maybe he had like one love from like high school till like maybe they're like 30-ish now, early 30s. The reason that they broke up, because they were madly in love this whole time, they had a very strong relationship, but his ex had this huge grudge with how much time his passion, his dream in the restaurant was taking from him. And so he always had this hard time because like, once again, he's a family man who cares about cooking in the restaurant so much, but she didn't care about it. She doesn't care about food. She doesn't care about the restaurant industry. Maybe like she was fine with his family. Like, I don't think she's like a villain in this situation, but she just never got like why he would want to spend so much time away from her. She couldn't handle the lack of time together.
Yeah,
so
she felt like the restaurant was a job, not his life.
Yeah, it was like the priority, not her. And so, you know, rightly so, she broke up. They're like on fine terms now, but that really like hurt him where he was like, she's right. I'm never going to have time for a person in my life because the restaurant is too consuming. But he forgot to think about like the people who would want to be at the restaurant and be a part of it and that do care about food. So this is where he's like coming to this realization as he's like, not only does she come to my restaurant all the time just to make footage, but sometimes she's coming here just to eat because she's in the area. And then she was craving, this thing I make. And then now she's at my cooking class. Like, I can't get away from her, like, let alone, like she's always in my time. So like, could there be a person that would fit into my life as it exists already?
I also think that since he's such a family man, I think that she needs to do something for his family that's not related to him at all. So I think that, because of course she's getting close with everyone, learning about restaurants.
She's wonderful.
Right. She's the best. So I think that maybe with the niece that we're so familiar with, perhaps she is like struggling at school, or maybe she is like interested in somebody, maybe her crush, like she's not sure if her crush likes her back, and so maybe she talks it out with Emily, and that's something that has nothing to do with Sam, but Sam sees or maybe hears about later and is like, oh, she can fit into this family that I'm so worried about another person fitting into.
What if she's like literally doing that with every family member? Like she helped the niece with like this situation of the crush. She like helped the mom like find a dress for, you know, the reopening.
The reopening, yeah.
Party. You know, like every little person, like, because she's just a helpful, nice person. So they all are just like leaning on her now. You know, she's in all of the circles.
Right. She's like so integral to their family now. I love it.
Oh, so cute.
I love.
And they all live happily ever after.
I was gonna say, and I think we did it. I think it's done. I think this always happens where it's a little bit out of order, wherein I know the beginning and I know the end, and then filling in the middle is the hardest part. But I think that we did that. I think we've thrown in quite a few scenes from both points of view, or even just if we're doing it all in one point of view, we still have background for the other person and their motivations and for what's going on with them. Excellent. Excellent storyboarding. Hey, Hannah, we wrote a book in like an hour.
That's so cool.
Not like a real book, because that would be so much harder and take so much longer. But we storyboarded the book in like an hour.
We did that. I'm proud of us.
I'm proud of us too. How do you feel? Do you feel accomplished?
I do. I really do. But now I feel a little bit of like the disappointment, like being like, damn, I can't actually read this or watch this. Like I'm invested. I care about these people now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And now I like too that like we've like started with these real people, but like turned it into this whole other scenario too. You know, like it was fun to make them their own people as well.
Yes.
Like I really enjoyed that. And it makes sense now when people like a lot of authors will say like, oh, I was inspired by this character. I'm like, how? Now I get it. I get it. I'm an author.
You're an author. Hey, you said that you don't have a writing background. Now you do. If you want to write this story, you can do that.
Find it on my LinkedIn.
Your LinkedIn?
Yeah, my new credentials here.
Oh, I thought you meant you were going to post chapters to LinkedIn like it was like your Polybore. Do you remember Polybore? I feel like nobody...
Yes.
Okay.
No, I do.
Okay. Because I was obsessed, and I've said that to like a few different people, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, Polybore was like... It wasn't before fanfiction.net, but it was like kind of around the same time as fanfiction.net. And people would write originals and also fanfiction. And then you get like a mood board at the top.
I loved all like the little mood boards. It was so cute.
Oh, what a time. I miss Polybore. Anyways, so Hannah, as we wrap up, I always ask my guests a few different things. So the first one is, what is your favorite book of all time?
So for those watching on YouTube, I'll kind of tilt the camera a little bit. Up there at the top, those two shelves across, I dedicate to literally two books that are kind of the ones that made me fall in love with reading, and now I collect them. So when I travel, sometimes I'll find them in a different language, or if I'm just thrifting, I'll be like, I don't have that one. Like the collection of both are crazy. Like I probably have more than 30 of each, but I collect Little Women and Anne of Green Gables. I feel like both of those books were just like really pivotal for me as a kid. They taught me that, like, you know, it's cool to read and to be a strong young woman and to use big words and have, you know, I don't know, be your own person. And so I feel like they were both like really big for me. So I always credit those to being my favorites, because I get too also stressed of like sometimes saying like a current book is a favorite. Like, I don't know, that's like a big choice. So I usually deviate to those.
Well, get ready for my next question, which is, what is your current favorite book? I was looking for my copy of Anne of Green Gables, and I don't know where I put it.
Well, send it to me later. So I went for one that I read 2 years ago that I keep thinking about, and then one I've read recently. I had to pick two, so I'll keep it brief. But the one I've read 2 years ago, which considering I read 120 books a year, it's surprising I remember it 2 years later, because my memory's not that great, to be honest. But Thieves' Gambit by Kavion Lewis, this is like Ocean's 11, but YA. So they're a bunch of, I think they're like high school age students coming together. They all got hand selected to do a heist, and they're competing against each other. And this usually like is something that sounds fun to me, but it doesn't seem like it would be something I would adore or fall in love with, but I would really enjoy it. And there is something about her writing in this book and the banter, yes, and the way it goes. Like I I couldn't stop thinking about it. I had actual dreams about this book. Like, the characters just like inserted themselves into my brain. And I haven't read the second one yet because it's a duology, but I'm about to. I wanted to give myself like, I don't know if other readers do this, but like I save books for moments where I feel like my brain can appreciate it. So I recently got married and I was traveling. So I was like, nope, can't do it then. I need time to like really appreciate it. So now I'm ready to read the second one. And then briefly, the other current favorite right now that I read recently is Under Lock and Key by Lana or Lana Ferguson. This book, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I will just say there's a really big plot twist in here that I did not see coming.
Is he?
Yes, like you start to see it coming, but
It's in the name.
But
And it's
like,
on the cover.
go for it. If you just go for it, like it seems like that's a little too crazy to go there, and then she
Sure.
goes, I don't know.
I want to read that. I have enjoyed every Lana Ferguson book that I don't know if it's Lana or Lana. I've
Yes.
enjoyed every Lana Ferguson book that I have read so far, so I'm excited to read that one. I haven't read it yet, but I do recommend The Nanny, which was very good.
I
And-
haven't read it, so
And also The Fake Mate, which was very good. Okay, what is your guilty pleasure book? Which is not to say that you feel guilty reading it. It's to say, look, do I think it's the best book that's ever been written? No. Will I reread it 18,000 times because it makes me smile? Yes.
So I think it's kind of like a guilty pleasure author, I would say. And the only reason I'm saying it's guilty, because I have posted very publicly about loving these books online, is because I was reading them on a plane. And I was like, if anyone reads over my shoulder right now, I am going to be mortified because these books are very dirty. But JT Gessinger, these series are like kind of my first dabble into the mafia romance space, which I know you read because I was listening to past episodes. Not only is it like fun and dark because there's those elements to it, the characters are really, really funny. I laughed aloud on an airplane reading both of these books. Like, that is so embarrassing. But the first book, essentially the plot is her husband disappeared. I think it was like the day of or before their wedding. And she was madly in love with him, you know, like that was going to be her person for forever. And he just disappeared without a trace. We meet her 5 years later and she is still just like destroyed over this. Like she is not herself. She's having a really hard time. Her best friend is like this like sexy little firecracker. And she's like, we're going out. Like, we're going to get you a man. We're doing this. She's always pulling her to do things, you know, dressing her up, doing all these things, trying to be supportive. She brings her out. And there's like this super, of course, like tall, dark, handsome, tatted, beefy man out that she's never seen before. And her friend's like, watch this. I'll show you how it's done. And she like saunters over to go hit on this guy. And the guy couldn't care less. But he's looking at her friend, the heartbroken friend. And the friend's just like, this is weird. And so they keep seeing each other a little bit, this guy and the friend. And we find out that this guy, it's all in the back of the book, so that I wouldn't consider that a spoiler. But we find out that this guy is infiltrated in a certain, you know, system. And he has a job to do. And his job is to literally take her out. Like, out. And then it begins. So I was very invested in like, why is he trying to take her out? How does that turn hot? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of point A to point B in this book, and it is really entertaining and somehow still makes you laugh.
That's
And
a
second-
very niche trope that I actually genuinely have enjoyed before, where it's I was sent to kill you, but I fell in love instead.
So good.
I do love it. What a time.
And second book is about her friend, and it's just like she is everyone's worst nightmare in the mafia because like she is so annoying and self-confident and they cannot handle her. And they were just like, get us away from this woman. Like, we cannot handle her. And I think she's like one of my favorite characters I've ever read. So that's Deep Litter. So the first one I should say is, let's see, Ruthless Creatures. And the second one is Carnal Urges. And I think there's two more coming out with also sprayed edges. So I am going to read those two, but I'm waiting for them to get released so that they, of course, match.
You gotta
because,
have the matching ones. I totally
have the
understand.
Exactly.
What is your most anticipated read of 2025?
Okay, it's Well Actually by Maisie Eddings. I love Maisie Eddings.
I also love Maisie.
It's just like she writes characters that feel like they're my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that just because I like them. I mean that because they seem so realistic.
Yes.
Like, they're like people you've met before and that you know in real life. I'm like, how did you do that on a page? I don't understand. But I haven't actually read too much of, like, I read the synopsis when she first announced it. And then I'm like, nope, I want to forget so that when I go to read it, it's like fun and fresh again. So it comes out in August. So I'll be reading that. I do know the cover is super adorable, and it's giving very much Andrew Garfield and Amelia de Moldenberg energy, where they're like sitting at a chicken shop date. So very cute.
Okay, great.
But that's my most anticipated for sure.
What was your last 5-star read?
I actually listened to this on audio, but I am prepping for book festivals right now. So I always go to the Tucson Festival of Books and the LA Times Festival of Books. So I usually pull like all the books off my shelves of the authors that are going and like go through their reading frenzy. And this will be my first time. I've never met Casey McQuiston, so I'm so excited. But I read One Last Stop. I listened to the audiobook. And this one also just had some like fun plot twists to it that I didn't really see coming, and I really enjoyed the characters and like the friendships, especially like the really strong friendships in this book. And I just felt like it was so heartwarming. Like this book just felt like it was like constantly hugging me, and I was very into it, and it was just very sweet.
I absolutely loved that book. I will say when I was in New York though, and I was on a subway for the first time, I was like, here? You're gonna get it?
Because I went on like metros and I'm like, some of these, it is like, I do imagine, though, like it would translate really well to a movie. Like it could be done really well in like a visual way because it's different.
Yeah.
But also like if you think about it too realistically, it takes you out a little.
Yeah, I think that as long as yeast infections don't exist, I think that you're good.
I think with the other things that are happening in this
also
world...
pink eye, because she loses her glasses at one point.
That's true. If without keeping it spoiler free, all of the things that can happen in this world are out there, so I can imagine that those things also don't exist.
Yeah. No, I still loved it. I was just like, interesting. No, I loved it, and I think that I rated it 5 stars when I read it many years ago. So it's still a fantastic book. Just like, don't worry about yeast infections, and then you're good.
It's great on audio too. I like the audio.
And what are you currently reading?
So I'm doing one on audio and one physical, per usual. My mood readers. Once again, these are both authors that are coming to an upcoming book festival, and they're very different, so I'm going to share both. Loving, Living, and Leaving the White Evangelical Church by Sarah McCammon, who also is just like, the more I'm learning about her, she's such a badass. She's a journalist who used to or still does work for NPR, and she had to cover like the liberal side of the media during the 2016 election at Trump rallies. So she had to like go through all of this like turmoil of being harassed at those and write about it. So she's just like a very interesting person. But like I mentioned earlier, I come from a very intense religious background, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to like read about that now that I'm healed enough to be able to be in that place to read it. So I wouldn't say like I'm excited to read it, but like very intrigued and like interested to see if there's like parallels to my own life. And then I'm also reading or listening to You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Not sure.
Leah Johnson.
Yeah. So I am very, very excited about this one. I'm already like 30% through the audiobook, and I am loving the main character so much. And I'm just like breezing through it. I think I started it last night and I've already listened to that much. And I probably will just like finish it today because I'm very invested to see how it all... there it is. I can't wait to like see how it ends. So I'm very excited about this one.
No, I loved that book. That was one of my 130 books in 130 days. I absolutely
Anyone that's read this, I've heard say they didn't like it. It's one of those books where I just feel like everybody who's read it love it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said someone didn't like it, and I was like, who didn't like it? We have beef.
Like it's just like one of those books where like everyone's like, you should read it.
It's so sweet. I genuinely loved it. You Should See Me in a Crown. Look, the back says loved it.
Aww.
Irrepressible Joy in book form. Nicola Yoon.
Cute. What are you currently reading, Ashley?
What am I currently reading? I have not opened a physical book this week, so there's that. Nice. I'm definitely listening to an audiobook. I don't know what's going on this week. I keep DNFing books. So I DNF'd a book from an author that I really enjoyed, but I don't want to, because I really enjoy her other books, I don't want to hate on this one. I DNF'd the Under the Oak Tree, which I'm going to retry, but not as audio, because I think that the grunting is just not for me. I am currently listening to and loving Flirting with Disaster by Naina Kumar. It's the audio version, and it is Sweet Home Alabama, but if it was an Indian couple, and it's so fun so far. I actually haven't seen Sweet Home Alabama, but I know that it's like classic, and I know that it's Reese Witherspoon. I only know the Sweet Home Alabama jokes where it's like they're cousins. That's not what's happening
It's
in this.
not like that. It's not like that at all. Honestly, like, telling you anything about the plot is going to make it sound like something you wouldn't like. It's one of those, like, rom-coms that just has that, like, energy that can't be replicated. Like, there is a magic in that movie. Every time I watch it, I, like, cry a little. I think it's maybe Reese's best movie besides Legally Blonde. Like, there's something very special about that movie, and I am going to need you to watch it.
I will watch it. I'm genuinely loving the audiobook of Flirting with Disaster as well. So what is happening is that they had gotten married in the past at Vegas. And then many years later, they are separated. She is trying to get a divorce from him, and he will not sign the papers. And she is now like big businesswoman, lawyer in DC. And so she has to go back to Houston where they lived together. He's still living in the house that they bought together. They were renting before, but he bought it. And he's like changed little things, but not big things. Like he painted the house, but the inside still has like their little place where they hung their keys that they painted together. The kitchen is still set up in the same way that she had set it up when they were living together. He is obviously not past it. He is still in it for sure. And she goes to get him to sign the divorce papers. And there's a hurricane. It's Houston. There's a hurricane. They have to shelter in place.
I never smiled at a natural disaster in my entire life right now. Like,
they have to shelter in place. And she didn't realize when she went, because she wasn't like paying a whole lot of attention, she breaks her phone in the airport. So she can't like do a lot of research on her own, but he's like letting her use his phone and stuff. But she basically has to, it's forced proximity. They're staying together in like a closet in separate sleeping bags because it's the only place that didn't have windows. And they're just sort of remembering what they loved about each other, seeing where it kind of fell apart. And I'm only halfway through it, but I'm really enjoying it. And I say, I hope that they don't get a divorce because I don't care about the other guy and I don't think that he matters.
The way that you described it, like all of the energy you're loving of this book, you'll love in the movie. Like that is very similar to the original plot. And like the pining, the will they, won't they, like it's so good. And now I want to abandon my whole very planned TBR with these festivals to read this. So I'm annoyed, but also like, thank you.
I think you should. And the audio is very well done. There's also, of course, the physical and the ebook. What a great time. Okay, so this has been If It Was a Book, podcast. And you can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also watch it on YouTube. If you have a story that you would like to turn into a book, you can email me at ifitwasabook@gmail.com. All right. And Hannah, is there anything that you would like to plug? Where can we find you?
I am, as I said, on any platform that basically pops up ever because I'm chronically online, but you can mostly find me right now on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, and Blue Sky. It's all the same username, which is Hannah Lisa Lohr, Lohr, which is funnily enough my new last name and also kind of bookish, which is really cool. I post a lot about books. I do a lot of fun buddy reads. I do series. But I also post a lot of other things that are fun, like Disney-related, travel-related, fashion. I've been really into making different coffee recipes and got a new espresso machine. So a little bit of all aspects of life, but mostly books.
You have a really cool fridge.
Yes, my fridge is excellent. And I also do a lot of in-person book events. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would love to moderate your event. Definitely reach out for that. And you can find me on socials and connect there.
If ever this becomes like a bigger thing, I think it would be cool to do a live show like at a book event. Like if we were going to be at a conference like YALLFest or something like that. Hey, YALLFest, if y'all want me to do this in person, I will do that. But I think that would be cool. But I also think that it would be cool to just go because I enjoy being at the different book festivals and maybe I can convince an author to like talk to me afterwards or something. And thank you for listening.